Today, we are talking about three fears that are costing you money in your law firm. Listen in to find out what they are. Hello, my friend. How are you doing today? And so, what about those fears? Those fears that you may not even notice, the ones that may be preventing you from becoming the biggest version of what you want to create in your law practice. And I'm speaking to you, the ones who have their firm, the ones who are aspiring to have their firm, who want to grow, who want to expand, who want to make a bigger difference in this world. Because we can't do that in our businesses unless we are willing to face our fears. But fears are scary, right? They don't feel good. They often have us feeling uncomfortable, maybe a little barfy. And what happens if we fail? Well, all of those fears, those beliefs that we have that are creating the fears, are preventing us from being bigger in the world, that might be preventing you from being bigger in the world. And I don't want to see that happen to you. I understand these firsthand because I am a business owner. I know what it's like to have really big dreams, to want to expand, to help more people, to touch more lives, to do the things that heart centered lawyers want to do. And we can often be our worst enemy, especially because it feels so good to do the work, to just jump in, do the things. But as a business owner, you've got to do more than just do the work. You actually have to work on your business if you want it to grow. You have to be strategic. You have to really think calmly about what's going on in your practice and how to grow it. But fear keeps us from being strategic. It keeps you in reaction mode, so you're not able to strategize, and it keeps you in worry and overwhelm, so your nervous system can't even feel calm enough to do the simple things that need to get done to keep your business not only stable, but continuing to grow, to continue to be financially healthy. Now, the things that it takes to grow, you probably know what they are, and they probably seem really simple. But your nervous system, when it's in fight or flight, just sticks to the old habits. It doesn't want to do anything new. So it sticks to the old tried and true things. And usually what that looks like is, well, I'll just keep my head down. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to, work harder, and I'm going to make sure that I'm billing more. And then I'm going to make more money that way. But when you're building a firm, you've got to be able to think bigger picture. It can't be keep your head down, do the work, and that it's going to end up being great. You're going to keep expanding because you're going to run yourself into the ground. And I don't want to see you do that. I have been there as a lawyer. And then as I was transitioning from being a lawyer into a business owner, I was there too. And I help my clients through this all the time. So I want you to listen to what you hear today and really take a close look at your life and where are you holding yourself back from growing your practice. Now, I don't want you to beat yourself up over any of these things. These are all normal things that pop up when you're a business owner. That's just the way it is. But what I want you to begin seeing are the things that you can start addressing so that these fears don't run your business. Because if your fears running your business, you're not running your business. You have actually got to get in the driver's seat, get your higher mind working, strategize, and doing the things that you know need to be done in order to ensure your vision for your practice. So here's the first fear I want to talk to you about. It's the fear that you're going to make a wrong decision, especially making a wrong decision when it comes to how you invest your money into your business. So think about this. You want to invest in your business, but you're afraid you're going to make the wrong decision. And then that decision that you make is then going to cost you money. So you're not going to have the money and you're not going to have the thing that might help you grow. So it's really important to see that this is just a fear, a normal fear, but it's a fear and it's holding you back. So what you got to do is you have to change how you think about money. So if you're thinking about your money as investing it into a business decision that might result in quote unquote money lost, then you are not going to do anything. You're not going to change in your business. You're not going to invest in your business. You're going to be so scared that you're going to make a wrong move that you don't make any move. What you're not seeing when you're in the scarcity mode is that you're coming from a place of being afraid that the money's not going to come back, right? Believing that it's just gone, that you don't get any return on it when you invest it. And that's 100% wrong because you're going to get something from any investment that you make. You're going to either make that money back, or you're going to make more than that money back, or you're going to get it in some kind of boomerang effect where you meet somebody and then they do something for you where that investment of time or money comes back, or you're going to learn a lesson. Like there's so many things that come back from the investments, but you can't actually get a different result if you don't do different things. And it's really tough to make moves in your business that are going to help you grow if you're constantly in scarcity and believing that you're not going to have a return no matter what. You've got to really think about that because it's going to keep your practice small. So instead, you have to think about money as constantly circulating. When you put money into the world, it comes back to you in equal or greater measure in one way or another. Now, this is really easy to see a return on an investment when it comes to a physical possession like a house. You put money into repairs and you'll get longer enjoyment of it, and you'll see more profit when you sell. I even had a lawyer come to me on a strategy session, and she was nervous about investing in coaching with me because she didn't have that concept of, oh, if I invest in my business, I'm going to get a return on it. I'm going to get time. I'm going to get money. I'm going to get fulfillment, all of those things. She was really focused on, well, how do I make money? How do I make money? And the only thing her brain could really glom onto was, oh, well, I invest in purses, right? She loved these high-end, beautiful designer purses. And those purses increase in value the longer that I own them. And so she could see that, but because we're so attached to like money and things, we can see it that way, but we don't necessarily see it when it comes to our business. For some reason, it's just harder for people to see that. And it's the same idea, though. You invest in your business, you shore up the foundation for your practice, you repair the things that need repairing, you update the things that need updating, you clear the way for making your business more successful long term, wipe out the things that don't make sense in your business so that you can make room for the things that do make sense in your business. And then you start really building the health of the business, and the business, because it's so healthy, it's flourishing and it wants to produce the fruits of that labor, the fruits of that investment, right? And it is more difficult for us to see this when it comes to our business because it's not visually in front of us. And that's something that we have to then think about. Oh, wait a minute. I need to invest in my business, or it's going to depreciate because things are going to fall apart. I'm going to fall apart, and I'm my biggest asset. So if I'm not investing in my biggest asset, I can't grow the business. Another problem believing you might make a wrong decision with money is that you don't gain the experience you need from investing the money. So you never learn what you need to learn to keep moving your business forward. You don't know if software is going to work for you sometimes until you've purchased it and tried it. You don't know if investing in an ad is going to work for you until you do it. You have to give up the idea of feeling like your decisions are supposed to feel like a sure thing. Now, if somebody tells you that an investment is a sure thing, run in the opposite direction. It doesn't mean don't think about the pros and the cons of the decision that you're making. But if you stay lost in thought forever and you don't take action, you don't get the benefit, right? You don't get the benefit of the lesson. You don't get the benefit of the return on the investment. And we get this false idea that investments are supposed to feel certain when we make them. But we don't ever have that certainty. We actually just have to have faith that it's going to work out, that we're going to figure it out. Take this, for example. We invest $150,000 in law school, and then we assume we're going to get a job. And 95% of the lawyers probably do, but that's not always a sure thing either. When job markets shift, the numbers go down. right? That's just how it works. And when you own your own business, though, you have to make decisions that keep you moving forward if you want to make more money and ensure the long term health of your firm. And that doesn't always feel like a law school decision. It's like, oh, here's the structure, and I'm just going to follow all the rules that they give me. And then I'm going to get a degree, and then I'm going to get a job. That's not how running your business is. You actually have to make these decisions differently. And that means it's going to feel uncomfortable. And another thing I want you to know is that you can't experience the long term game that you're looking for if you don't invest in what you want now, right? Because if you invest in what you want now, you're going to start seeing those improvements time over time. It's that showing up with the consistency, right? Consistency of investing, consistency of your time, your energy. And I was talking to a client recently who has experienced tremendous gains, both personally and financially, like since we've been working together. We've been working together for years. She is old school. We go back. And I asked her, as I ask all the lawyers that I work with after our 6 month package is coming to a close, if she wanted to keep going, because that's just what I ask. And she looked at me and she kind of laughed and she said, "What do you think? I'm crazy?" And she just seen so much improvement for herself that she said, "Oh my gosh, like this is a no brainer. Of course, I'm going to keep investing in myself. Of course, I'm going to keep investing in coaching." And she sees that benefit because she's had the experience, because she took that chance on herself early on. And she's had the ability over time to have that consistency and that repetition and being able to lift those weights and seeing the improvements time after time after time. But if you don't get started, you can't start seeing those results and you can't make that decision for yourself to keep going, which is what she's done over the years. And she doesn't look now that she's had that experience, right? She invested in herself so she could have the experience and understand if it was for her. And now she can see that, yes, of course, this makes sense. Like I get 10 times my investment when I do this. So, of course, I'm going to keep showing up for myself. Of course, I'm going to keep investing. But you don't know, just like if you're going to buy an ad, right? Like if you're going to buy an ad, you don't know if it's going to work until you buy the ad. And then if it works, you can be like, okay, let me do it again. But you won't know until you have the experience. So you've got to invest in those experiences. Otherwise, you're going to have a really hard time growing. You're going to stay stagnant. You've got to keep doing things that are different for you that are going to then help you get the growth that you want. So let's talk about the second fear, fear of what people will think and what they will do if you do something different. This is probably one of the biggest fears that I come across in my calls, right? Because if you change the way you think about decision making, right, you have to be thinking about yourself, right? If you're thinking about what everybody else wants, if you're thinking about what your clients are going to be thinking about you, if you're going to be thinking about what your assistant thinks of you, what your colleagues think of you, what your family members think of you, you're always going to be making decision for them, right? Decisions are always going to be made for their benefit. You actually have to stop thinking about them so that you can think about what you want just for a minute, right? Just for a minute, start there. Because if you don't think about what you want, then all that your brain is doing is autopilot living and autopilot living for somebody else who's out there who might have a bad thought about you and one of the decisions that you make. So let me give you an example. And I see this come up a lot of times around raising rates, and lawyers will put off and put off and put off raising their rates, even though it's going to make them more money. And they know it's the right thing to do because their expenses have gone up because of what other people think. And it's thoughts like they're going to think I'm greedy if I raise my rates. They're going to think, oh my gosh, she thinks so much of herself to be raising her rates. Or like, she just raise her rates? Like, oh my gosh, she just thinks she's so good. Or, you're too young to be making that kind of money. Like people are going to look at me and they're going to think I'm really young looking and they're going to think I shouldn't be charging that much. Or clients will leave me, right? That's another big one. Is that clients will leave me or potential clients will say no. And then I'm going to be living on a street somewhere and I'm not going to have a roof over my head, right? Or Basically, what these all come down to is who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to be raising your rates? What do you think? You're hot stuff that you're allowed to be raising your rates? And this is what the fear really comes down to is believing that others will think badly of you and that you're not good enough to be making the decision that you are making. And if you don't address these, if you don't really see these for what they are, which are lies, then you will not be able to raise your rates. You're not going to be able to be satisfied in your job. You're going to be resentful to the work that you're doing because you're not getting paid enough to pay your bills. And you've got to really fight every single day to get work done versus saying, oh, wait a minute, if I raise my rates, it doesn't mean I'm greedy. It means that I want to get paid for the value that I'm giving. And I have to remember that they see what I'm creating for them as valuable, right? You've got to change how you think about this. They know that what you deliver is valuable or they wouldn't be coming to you. And in terms of like, oh my gosh, I think so much of myself. Yeah, you should think more of yourself. I don't think we think enough of ourselves, right? We people please, we do all of these things that make other people happy. But if you're always doing that, you're never going to live for yourself. And at the end of your life, you're going to look back and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I was so scared to raise my rates. Like, what was that about? It wasn't even that hard. It made sense. I was delivering value. People loved what I was giving them. And I really cheated myself of living the life that I wanted because I was afraid of what other people would think of me. Or do you think you look really young? I work with some women lawyers who look really young and they're afraid that, an older male is going to look at them or even a female of the same age is going to look at them and say, oh my gosh, you're so young. Like, how could you possibly be charging that much? And when they think about this, they recognize like that they recognize, oh, wait a minute, it has nothing to do with my age. They don't care how old I am. They just want to know that I know what I'm doing. And of course, I know what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I explain it to them simply. I get the job done. I'm an amazing attorney. And when you're an amazing attorney, you've got to recognize that for what it is. It has nothing to do with your age, it has to do with how good you are at what you do. And clients will leave me. Let's look at this one, right? If you believe clients will leave you, maybe some will. But those who don't are going to be paying more and they're going to make up for that. And it's going to ensure that you're getting the best clients paying what you love to receive. They love paying what they're paying. And guess what? I love running this one by my clients too, because they'll have this fear of raising their rates. And I'll say, look, if it doesn't work out in 30 days, you can just go back. Like it's not that big a deal. It's not a be all end all decision. You're going to be fine. And of course, once they try it, they see that nothing changes, that everything's fine, and they feel so much better about it. But it's kind of like the first fear, right? You have to do the experience, you have to put yourself out there, have the experience, get the understanding, get the knowledge, and then you'll be able to see whether or not it was the right fit. But you don't know until you actually try it. Like you actually have to front the investment in yourself, front yourself when it comes to the fear, saying, okay, I know this is a fear and it's okay, and support yourself all the way. That's what I do with my clients is I'm supporting them in their decisions. I'm helping them really logic through whether it makes sense for them. And then they just make these decisions, face their fears, and then they get the work done. Now, the fear of what other people think is affecting you in so many more areas besides raising your rates, because I just knew that raising your rates might be something that's on your mind that you might have been putting off because you were scared of it, that it shows up in so many other areas, like when you decide to leave the office because you're afraid of what people are going to think, especially if you're a firm owner who has employees. I've seen this show up where a firm owner would want to stay later to show the employees, oh, this is what work ethic looks like. Like you're supposed to stay late. And that was a habit they picked up when they worked for a larger firm, but they never actually wanted that kind of lifestyle. But instead of questioning the fear behind leaving earlier in the day, they just decided they were going to stay later out of habit, right? That old fear-based habit. And then They stayed later at their own expense and then creating a culture in their firm they didn't actually want to have. So that's one thing that often is a fear that comes up is leaving the office. What are people are going to think about you? What are your colleagues going to think about you? That you're lazy or you're privileged or you don't have work ethic. And then it always comes back to who do you think you are for leaving the office a little earlier? And then, of course, there's having conversations with people, communicating what you want, whether it's with assistants, whether it's with clients, whomever, and their thoughts like they're going to hate me, they're going to talk about me behind my back, they're going to leave me. And you've got to face these fears and see them for what they are. Because if you can't communicate with your assistants, you aren't going to get the performance that you need and you want. They can't read your mind. They really can't. I promise you. And the same thing with your clients. You've got to communicate what you want and what you need. And if they don't want to do what it is that you need them to do so that you can perform the best at your job, then it might be time to say goodbye to them. But until you learn how to face these fears, you will not be able to grow your business the way you want to. You won't be able to calm the overwhelm so that you can start working on your business instead of just in your business. You've actually got to make that time for yourself so that you can grow the way that you want to. This is what I help my clients with, facing fears, doing the things so that you can get the growth that you want. So here's the third fear that I want to talk about here today, which is a fear that you're just not capable, that it's just not possible right now for whatever reason, whether you're too busy, you just don't have the capacity because you have so much work on your plate right now, or you're afraid that you're not going to be able to do good work for your clients because you're going to have grown and then you're not going to have all of the time that you had before to work on those matters the way that you want to. They're going to suffer in work product. And another reason, right, that the fear brings up is that it just feels hard, right? It's going to be so much hard work is what the brain says. And I want you to know that these fears are normal, right? These doubts that you're going to be able to handle the workload, these doubts that you're going to be able to perform the way you have in the past makes sense because you haven't really looked at what your true capacity is. And if you're not looking at your true capacity, if you don't really know what your capacity is, how could you ever judge it, right? And this comes down to the experience again. So oftentimes I'll talk to lawyers and they'll tell me, look, I'm at capacity. I can't do any more. And in that moment, it's true, right? I want you to hear that. So if you're experiencing this and you're like, I'm at capacity, I can't do anymore. I want you to just know that yes, in this moment, that's true. But what you may not know because you haven't had this experience is that you are able to build your capacity and you are able to create more in your business, create more money, create more satisfaction, fulfillment, all of the things when you start to look at the foundations of your business and start to kind of smooth out the rough edges, right? Because otherwise, you're going to be struggling day in and day out. So if you're feeling really overwhelmed in your firm right now, you're working all the hours, you're trying to lead your assistants, you're trying to do the trainings for them, you're trying to manage your financials, you're doing all of the things, but you just cannot see a way to grow, even though you want to, then you've just got to start thinking about what you need to be doing to prioritize building your capacity. So, for instance, my clients, they devote 50 minutes each week to growing their capacity because there's no avoiding this. If you want to grow your business, you have got to devote time to growing your business. It starts there because you have to start thinking strategically. You've got to carve out that time for yourself. You have to start thinking about what are the foundations that I'm lacking? Where are my skill gaps? Where are the things that I need to be thinking about so that I can grow my business, but not work harder? And if you don't carve out that time to do it, you aren't going to do it, right? So that's where the work with me is 50 minutes every week. We'll sit down and we'll talk and we'll start to strategize. We'll start to talk through, okay, what's the big holdup now for you this week? Is there a fear that's blocking you from taking action on something you want to do, for example? Or, are you having difficulty with an assistant right now getting the performance that you want? Let's talk about that. Let's walk through it. What are your communication styles? What are you doing in order to get paid this month? Because a lot of times, I had this come up recently, actually. I had a client who had a retainer agreement that was actually preventing her from getting paid. And she didn't even realize it because she got it from, one of those forms from the state bar that said, hey, use this form as a retainer agreement. But the retainer agreement wasn't helping her. And she was so busy in her practice doing all of the work that she didn't even have the ability to pause and think about it. So if you have 50 minutes every week and you've got somebody who knows exactly where the skill gaps are, who knows exactly where the pitfalls are, which I do, then you have somebody who can focus your brain in that time to help you solve those problems. And a lot of times what the issue is that, oh yeah, you could carve out an hour for yourself every week, but something gets in the way. You end up devoting that time to something else. You make all these decisions like, you know what, I got to check my email, or, this thing came up. But when you have somebody who's there to help strategize with you, it makes it really tough for you to say, I think I'm going to skip this week, because that time is devoted on your calendar. You have made a decision ahead of time that building your business is important to you. And that time represents the growth of your business. It represents the financial success and future of your business. And so, of course, you want to show up for it. Of course, you want to show up for that investment you made in yourself. Of course, you want to show up for thinking more strategically about your practice and where you need to start streamlining things, where you need to start having a system, and then having somebody who can walk you through how to do those things, can walk you through the uncomfortable things that you're avoiding, like checking your revenue. This is something that I've started doing with my clients, which is we check in on revenue. We check in on where are you right now and how are things going and what's billing look like. And we check in on all of the things that ensure your financial success. But when you are so bogged down in the day to day working on client matters, this is basically impossible. And by the time you get home, which is a lot of times what people tell themselves, I'll do it when I get home, I'll carve time tonight to do it. But you're so exhausted at the end of the night, you're not going to do it. You're so exhausted and you just want to say, look, I deserve some time to myself. But if you want to grow, you've got to carve this time out for yourself. You've got to make it essential. You've got to make it a priority. So when you do make it a priority, you have the ability to build that foundation brick by brick. You have the ability to ensure that your business is continually moving forward, that you're learning the skills that you need to learn. You're thinking about the things you need to be thinking about. And for at least 50 minutes a week, you've got that focus. And it's really easy to say, oh, if I'm doing it myself, I'm just going to put it off, or I'm going to do it late at night. But speaking from personal experience, that doesn't happen, right? Unless you have the commitment to start just doing it on your own, which some of you do. If you're listening to this and you're like, yes, I am committed to doing this on my own, I want you to do that. I want you to stay the course. I want you to commit to yourself to really think calmly and strategically about your practice and really think about where are the fears that are preventing you from taking action, and addressing those fears and taking action on them this week. Like, just start taking action on them. If that's you and you're listening to this episode, do it. I promise you, you're going to see results. But if that's not you, if you're like, look, I am so tired, I need help, I want to encourage you to book a strategy session with me, because I'm going to get you faster results. And it's not going to be a struggle, because you're going to have somebody who's there side by side with you, who knows the pitfalls, that knows what to look for, who understands how law firm growth needs to happen in order not to burn you out, but to also grow your capacity. Your capacity is going to determine how much money you can make in your practice. And if you don't grow your capacity, you won't be able to continue your growth. All right. And you can book a strategy session at dinacataldo.com/strategy session. One of the things that I am doing now for law firm owners specifically is doing a business audit because there are very specific areas in law firms that are often ignored. And I don't want those to be areas that you're ignoring. And if you're listening to this podcast, that's beautiful. You're probably picking some of these things up. But if you go into a strategy session with me, I'll actually be able to walk you through things step by step and help you start to prioritize what you need to focus on. And when you start to understand what you need to focus on, things become easier. Because if you're already stretched to capacity now, you don't want to do everything all at once. You want to do these things in a way that makes sense for you. And you and I are going to talk through that during a strategy session. So you can get that business audit within the strategy session by going to dinacataldo.com/strategy session and booking your call. All right, my friend, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know from personal experience that these fears are going to come up in your business, but what's important is that you don't let them block your growth. You don't let them control you, and that you take charge of your practice because ultimately, you're the one who's going to create the practice and the life that you love. All right, have a beautiful day.